What's up and welcome to the penultimate episode of Binge Watching the Classics. Actually, I'm not even sure if that's true. Penultimate for now. I may bring it back as I continue through this AFI Top 100 list. However, in terms of these first 25 movies, we're now on to the second best and second worst films in my personal rankings. Now, to recap what we've covered so far, I'll start with the best of list. We began with The Treasure of Sierra Madre at number 5, The Philadelphia Story at number 4, and Citizen Kane at number 3. And then for the bottom 5, we started with Unforgiven. Then we got into Gone with the Wind at number 4, and finally American Graffiti at number 3. And that's where we're at. Ready for the number 2 movies on each list, starting as always with the good. Now, I tend to lean towards heavier, more melodramatic movies. They just seem to carry a significance that, a happy-go-lucky movie maybe doesn't. The Treasure of Sierra Madre and Citizen Kane being perfect examples of that. Even The Philadelphia Story, while largely a comedy, had some of those elements of heavy hearts and feeling misunderstood by the world around you and all of that. But for my number 2 selection, I was just blown away by the overall charm of this film. It was fun, it was light, it was a goddamn delight. At number 2, you've got the 1952 iconic musical, Singing in the Rain. Now, the haters would say that I'm not a musical guy, and there may or may not be a musical appearing in my number 1 least favorite spot next week, but that criticism simply is not true, and this is proof of it. Singing in the Rain is a musical in the most traditional way. It's very much about the song and dance numbers, and the rest is almost filler. Not to say it's bad, but it's not the feature of the film. And in this case, I really enjoyed that because the choreography was so impressive, the songs are so iconic, that it was a genuinely enjoyable experience rather than just kind of an intrusion to the plot. I mean, take the title song, for example. The choreography, the staging of that scene, it was wildly impressive. Just the amount of water that was used to maintain the rainfall, the creation of giant puddles that were placed in specific locations by digging out the street, it was amazing. Or take the song Good Morning, for example. The synchronicity in that scene is unbelievable. Just watch it. Really watch it and try to pay attention to the little details. It's exhausting. It's ridiculously impressive. Even the camera work on that scene is impressive. And don't even get me started on Make 'em Laugh. That performance was literally an athletic feat. Donald O'Connor is incredible. Gene Kelly, of course, was great in the leading role as well. Same with Debbie Reynolds, who was obviously outmatched in terms of her ability as a dancer, but was able to keep up with 2 of the greats either way. And how about Jean Hagen as Lena Lamont? She had to play this, untalented ditz, so she's not a character I want to actually spend time with, but as an actress, she crushed that role. She even earned an Academy Award nomination for it. But what really sent this movie over the edge for me was the whole meta factor. You've got a movie about making a movie. You have this difficult transition period from silent films to talkies, playing out in a film that was released not too long after that whole transition. You have Debbie Reynolds being heralded as the voice behind the voice, and yet in the movie, Debbie Reynolds is actually being dubbed over by a singer named Betty Royce. And to take it yet another step further, there was actually a moment where Jean Hagen, the actress who played Lena Lamont, was actually dubbing over Debbie Reynolds' character in a scene where Debbie Reynolds was dubbing over Lena Lamont. I'm not sure if you guys follow that or not, but the point is this. Singing in the Rain is an excellent movie. It's available on HBO Max, as I think all of the movies we've discussed are. Most anyway. It's great. Give it a watch. It's an easy watch. It's a fun watch. It's not something you have to really think about too much. Just sit back and enjoy it. It's a good one. But, of course, the point of this list is that they're not all good. So let's get to the bad. We're finally on to the number 2 worst movie on my list, meaning that there's actually one movie worse than this one, but for this week we're focusing on number 2. It's the 1982 Dustin Hoffman Sydney Pollack comedy simply titled Tootsie. Alright, now let me be clear about why I have this movie so far down my list, because it's not necessarily a bad movie, it's just kind of a nothing movie. I remember finishing this thing and just being baffled that it would be included on a list of the 100 greatest films of all time. I hated Gone with the Wind, but I wasn't surprised it was on the list. You know what I mean? With Tootsie, I was left with this feeling like, why? I can think of so many 80s comedies that are more deserving of top 100 status. And that's only if you're limiting it to 80s comedies. If we're talking about all films, what's this doing on the list? And all I could think of in terms of, potential reasoning was that it's a progressive movie, or at least that's how it's interpreted. That's his reputation. Sydney Pollack famously said it was his love letter to women. And the plot is, I guess, at its core, about learning to understand what additional hardships women go through in the workplace. But I would argue that this film is the opposite of that. It's the opposite of progressive. It's mansplaining on the most extreme level. First of all, you have Dustin Hoffman pretending to be a woman to get an acting job, right? And he's instantly the most successful actor on television, surpassing all of the other actresses that were already on the air. You know, I don't know what that says about men being better than women at a particular job, but the fact that he pretends to be this woman and all of a sudden he's the best. He's better than all of the actual actresses that are out there. Then in the big final speech, and I'm sorry that this is a spoiler, but who cares? This movie, sucks. He basically explains that he's gone deep undercover and realized how hard women have it. It takes a man to show everybody that women have it hard. It's patronizing. Quite frankly, it's a dumb way to wrap everything up from a writing perspective. Oh, and the woman he's been lying to and manipulating the whole movie, played by Jessica Lange, who I love, she decides that, maybe she'll give him a chance after all. That's how it ends. Even though what he did is sick and twisted and wrong on so many levels. I mean, he was going along with this plot that, maybe he would date her father. It's so sick. It's twisted. The whole thing's twisted, but it's like in the vein of like a kind of cute, charming rom-com. Man, this one really annoyed me. It annoyed me in a way that no other movie on this list did, and I can't really fully explain that, but it just made me mad that, I just remember watching and I could not wrap my head around how this would ever be considered great. It was mediocre at best. Kind of corny. But whatever. I'm sure it's beloved like all the other movies that I hated. Just certainly not loved by me. And that's where I'll leave you. Only one more episode to go, revealing the number one movie on my list. Or I should say number one movies. The number one best movie, number one worst movie. I hope you guys have a great weekend. It's starting to get colder out there, so schedule in some time for some classic movie viewing. I think Tootsie's on Netflix, by the way, if you want to check that out. But that's it. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Peace.